You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you need to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
You're listening to The Other 50%. I'm Julie Harris Walker. Now, I'm putting this episode up on the Herstory of Hollywood and the Herstory of Tech because it doesn't fall neatly into either one, but I think it is vitally important to both. Today, I interviewed Vicki Saunders, and she created an organization called SheEO. It's a radically different organization that funds female-led ventures and companies. It's incredible, and I can't get enough of it. I went to a meeting. I've been an evangelist ever since I heard about it, and I want all of you to hear about it. And I'm putting it out now because the deadline to become an activator for this year is November 1st. So you can find us at theother50%.com, all spelled out. So if you're listening to the Herstory of Hollywood or the Herstory of Tech, you should know I have another podcast, the Herstory of Hollywood or the Herstory of Tech, and that's where I talk to women in those industries and share their stories. Okay, here's Vicki. Thank you so much for joining me on The Other 50%. I am so excited to talk to you.
My pleasure.
I went to a meeting last week, and I've been an evangelist ever since about SheEO and telling everybody who will stop long enough to listen to me. So, would you please tell us about SheEO?
Sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started a number of different companies, taken a company public, and pretty much had every single kind of funding there is, except for private equity, over the last couple of decades. And my witnessing of the system and the structure of business and how we support women is so broken. And not surprisingly, that is true because the entire system was designed by men, mostly for men. And most of the people writing checks are men. And so as I've witnessed this whole experience, I'm like, we need to design a whole new ecosystem support model to support women entrepreneurs on their own terms. And so that's what we've done with SheEO. It's a model where 500 women come together and they contribute $1,100 each. It's an act of radical generosity. They do not get their money back. It is pooled together in a fund. So $100 is a program fee for us to deliver it, but the $1,000 goes into the collective fund. So there's $500,000 in this fund. And the 500 women who've contributed capital go online to our online community and they vote for 5 female entrepreneurs who they are in love with. And those entrepreneurs get a 0% interest loan, which they pay back over 5 years into the fund, and then the money's loaned out again. So we're building this perpetual fund that keeps paying it forward. Your $1,000 it's loaned out, paid back, and loaned out again. And the goal is to get to 1 million women globally as soon as possible and $1 billion fund. So that would fund 10,000 female entrepreneurs with game-changing ideas every single year forever. And this is a legacy we want to leave in the world.
It is incredible.
Now, thank you.
The women whose businesses are chosen to do this, do they have to give up a piece of their business at all?
No, this is actually called radical generosity. The entire spirit underneath it is coming from that place. And so this 0% interest loan has no strings attached to it at all. You pay it back and then it's loaned forward. So we take no percentage of your company. And on top of that, as a female entrepreneur who's sort of struggling at the early stage of your business, you need to have at least $50,000 to apply to SheEO, $50,000 in revenue the year you apply, be majority woman-owned and woman-led, and be able to answer the question of how you're creating a better world, either with how you do business or through your product or service. And then you get 500 of us on your team. So that's the game-changing thing. I think, the funding model is interesting here. It's a low price point for women to come together and support each other, but we're really using our buying power and our expertise and our networks to help you grow your business. And all of us are very excited to be part of this. It started a couple of years ago in Canada, and it's just really starting to take off. At our current growth rate, we'll be at that $1 billion fund in another 8 years.
Oh, I have no doubt. And I imagine it would happen even faster. So can you describe what that network of support looks like for a woman whose business is chosen?
Yeah. So first of all, the application process is super simple. It's only 12 questions, no pitch decks, no attachments, no jargon. You apply online by answering these questions, and then the women go online and vote. Everything is done virtually. Then when you're selected, you come together for a retreat. You meet your coaches because you're in a coaching program for the year. You get 2 coaching calls with world-class coaches every month. And then you get access to the women in the network through our online community and through email. So the way that works is there's an ask every month by the venture. So what's your biggest business need this month? And, things are like, I need introductions to an ethical manufacturer. I'm looking to talk to an executive at this kind of a company. Would someone look at my financials? Whatever those kinds of things are within the network, entrepreneurs ask for that, and they get exactly what they need from the network within 24 hours of that ask. So the thing that's quite wild about this is it's an on-demand network that women have never really had.
Yes. Now, who is in the network? Is there any criteria for women becoming part of that network, or is it?
Yes. No. So we call those women activators. We don't call you an investor. We call you an activator because you're activating your capital and your expertise and your buying power and your networks. And so that is it's simply people that are radically generous who step forward, who have no expectation of a return on their capital, but really want to see a new model emerge and want to be in a network of other radically generous women. So currently that looks like women between the ages of 14 and 93. We have mothers, daughters, and grandmothers, successful corporate executives, people just getting started, students, entrepreneurs who know how hard it is and who want to pay it forward, entrepreneurs who want a kind of backstage pass to what it looks like to be a female entrepreneur. I mean, it's a very, very diverse group of people of all sort of ages and stages.
So whatever you're looking for, there is probably someone in that network who can provide it.
There's all kinds of subgroups and sub-tribes within the network that are self-organizing together. And then you're all in a network together in this online community, so you can ask each other for help and support each other. So what's emerging just organically from the beginning is people are finding their people and co-founding businesses together or helping each other with their leadership struggles or challenges that they have, just coming together and supporting each other. It's this sort of network of women emboldening one another in a radically generous manner.
Yeah, and it really strikes me as a particularly feminine way to do business that is so different from the current model.
It is literally the opposite of Shark Tank and everything else we do. I was at an event last night in San Francisco, and someone said the thing they like most about this, they're an angel investor, is they said, in our current model as an investor, we sort of sit back with our arms crossed looking at the entrepreneur and say, prove to me that you're going to be successful.
Right.
And what we do at SheEO is literally the opposite. It's like we run towards amazing female entrepreneurs that we're excited about and say, let us help you and be successful by making introductions for you, by supporting you. So it's like literally 500 women, full court press on entrepreneurs that we love and that we want to support. It's exactly the opposite of how we're doing it in the world.
So you kind of can't fail.
Well, I mean, this is something that we're experimenting with, right? Our goal is to have 100% payback rate. And, of course, maybe one day down the road, there's going to be a failure rate with this. But at this point, everyone's paying back their loans on time. And here's the thing. If you're one of the women in the network, it's all on your own terms as an activator. If you're too busy and you've got so much going on in your life, that's completely fine. You don't have to step in and help. We have 100-to-1 ratio of activators to ventures. So at some point, someone's always paying attention and it's working organically. It's not like if everybody was trying to help at the same time, it would be a nightmare for the entrepreneurs. And that's not what's happening, right? Yeah.
Right, that's a whole nother full-time job.
Yeah, I told you have to come and meet my friend Sally. She has great ideas for you. You're like, you can't, it's not that, but it's working just, because people are busy. And so 1 month someone's really in and paying attention. The next 3 months they're not. That's all fine. That's fine for us.
It's almost like, it sounds to me like Shark Tank, but under the red tent.
Here's the thing. It's designed by a woman. I'm a woman. I created this model. I've been through the trenches, and I really think that there's almost nothing that we live in, no institutions or structures or models out there that are designed by women to leverage all of our specific talents. Like, women are collaborative. Bring them together to collaborate versus competitive, stepping over each other to win. That's not the way we are. Right. And so we took those kinds of things. And then we also know that a lot of female entrepreneurs keep their ideas small because they don't think they'll get funded. And every time they sort of step out to go get funded, they're told everything that's wrong with them. So they just stop asking, right? Like, that happened to me. No matter what I did, it was never good enough. I was very clear of all the things I'm not good at. Thank you very much. But in our network, what we do is we focus on what are you awesome at and what are you not great at? And then we help you fill in the blanks, right? So we have a female entrepreneur who started a company called Abigo, which is breathable food wrap. She invented this product. It is so cool. Like all of our wrap for food is plastic and toxic, and it cuts off the air, and food stops breathing immediately. Like you wrap an avocado, it turns brown immediately, right?
Right.
With Abigo, Abeego, you wrap an avocado and it stays green for 4 days. Like it's like putting the rind back on the avocado. Every woman's like, oh my God, where do I buy that? Yes. And every man that she went to get this idea funded was like, what? You're going to take on saran wrap? Forget it. Besides, you don't have a business degree. You don't know what you're doing. We were like, this is the most genius thing ever. You're a visionary. You're an inventor. Awesome. You've done the hard part. You need to hire an operations person. Right? Like it's just the flip side of it. Yeah. That's the easy part.
Every woman in the room is going to buy it.
Totally. And they have. And so she went from, really not sure if she was going to make it to she's going to hit $2 million in revenue this year. And she's up 500% in revenue growth since she joined the network.
Well, take that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
hello.
I know the data is abysmal for women getting venture capital funding. Can you talk a little bit about what it looks like in traditional models?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's much worse than it even was 20 years ago when I had a fund and I was funding entrepreneurs. So it's 4% of venture capital goes to women in general. At 0.2% of that goes to women of color. So it's absolutely brutal. And 1 out of every $23 that's loaned by a traditional financial institution goes to women. And we're not a niche, right? We're 50% of the population.
Yes.
So this is a huge, huge problem. We're starting businesses at 1.5 times the pace of men, and we're all starved of capital. So women's innovations continue to be sitting on the sideline at a time of deep disruption in the world where we need to rethink almost every single thing, every part of society. We need everybody coming forward with their ideas, and we need to fund female innovators if we're going to get to a better world. And that's what SheEO is all about.
Absolutely. So was it a moment where you thought, oh, this is the idea I need to have? Was it an evolution? How did you get to this model?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy struggle. I mean, so basically, when I was I just started university, I was studying computer science, and I took an elective called Women in Literature. And of course, this course, Women in Literature, was taught by a man, like it probably still is. And, they deconstructed all these books. I was reading books I'd never read before, like Germaine Greer, Sex and Destiny, and Simone de Beauvoir, and Gloria Steinem, and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, at the end of the course, after they deconstructed all this stuff about how women are treated in society, I went, oh my God, I'm oppressed. Why didn't anyone tell me? I grew up in this family full of boys, and I really just was clueless. I didn't think it was any different. But when I read all this stuff, I thought, whoa, and I started to see the world differently.
Right.
And then I came home that summer, and I poked at everything I saw. I'm like, why do I have to do the dishes? Why doesn't he have to do the dishes? I just noticed everything and pointed it out. And within a couple of weeks, my brother started calling me Germaine every time I opened my mouth. And I started to, they're like, geez, Vicki, for God's sake, take a downer. Like, what's your problem? Relax. I was joking, whatever, And at that point, I was like, what do you do with this? I was 18 years old. I was getting started. I had so many dreams for myself. I wanted to have a huge impact in the world. And what I noticed was completely denied by everybody around me. And I looked around and no one else was saying too much about it either. And so I thought, okay, well, obviously, if I want to be successful, pointing this out is not going to help because I keep getting sidebarred every time I do. Right. So I'm just going to put my head down and crank, which I did. And I started a couple of businesses, and then I had a company that was a bit of a rocket ship, and it went from an idea to a public company in 5 years.
Wow.
And we merged with a whole bunch of we merged with a fund run by a bunch of white male bankers, and we started negotiating what that was going to look like. And every time I said, here's the uniqueness of our culture, here's how we do things differently, they'd be like, yeah, that's intangible. That doesn't fit on the balance sheet. And so it was my first kind of all the special sauce that we talk about, we call it soft stuff, and it doesn't matter. It's only the hard stuff that matters. And so it was really a challenging experience, and they were frustrated by me because I led so differently. And at the end of it, the negotiating, we don't want you to be the CEO. We want him to be the CEO. And it was this devastating moment for me. I was not surrounded by a lot of people who were lifting me up. And I came home and I thought, what the hell? Like, I want to be successful, and success was IPOing. And
you
I
had
thought,
proven
okay,
your success already.
I'd proven it. Like, I mean, that's why they were merging with us, because of what I'd created. And part of, like, it was just a terrible experience. And I came back and caved, and we were co-CEOs. And then everybody looked at me differently after that in the company, everybody. And it was a giant, like, #fail moment for me as a leader. And it's for a bunch of reasons. I was following someone else's path, which is, be successful means IPO, and therefore that's what you do. It was not a successful experience for me. And I, so I learned at that moment that no matter what I did, it was never good enough, right? Like, I was always going to be treated differently, and that was the real challenge. Right. And then when I've been mentoring tons and tons of entrepreneurs over the years. So fast forward 20 years, this is a long way of getting to your answer, but I was mentoring this amazing young entrepreneur who had this incredible idea, and it was starting to really grow. And then I started hearing all of the advisors around her, mostly male, saying exactly the same thing I had heard before. You know what? In the next round, you're probably not going to be the CEO. We're going to bring in someone who knows what they're doing, a man, and ... And I thought, oh my God, not on my watch. How many generations are we going to let this happen? It is ridiculous. Men don't know any more what they're doing than we do. And it's crazy that this power over continues to occur. We have everything that we need as women to change this. Yeah. We make 80% of purchasing decisions. We're going to inherit 75% of the largest wealth transfer in history. Like, this is the moment. And if you look at what's happening in the world right now, oh my God, it is our time.
Yes,
we have to stop
happening.
this. And so for me, it was that moment where I'm like, I have to solve this problem. And then how do I solve it? And where does that idea come from? And I'd been thinking about it for the last couple of decades. I just couldn't find a model that I thought would be practical and working immediately, plus have an audacious vision to shift the economy over time. So for me, I'm like not interested in doing anything tiny, but I wanted it to, but this idea of like 500 women locally where you can touch and feel those companies, you can meet them, you can support them locally, your money stays in your own country. But it also grows to this audacious vision of 1 million women globally in $1 billion fund as this kind of kickoff point. That felt like when that idea came through and I started socializing it, women started to go, this is cool, this is interesting. It makes sense to me.
Oh, as soon as you hear the vision, it's like, oh, duh, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple idea. And it's a very different sort of spirit. You come into this network and we're all practicing how to be radically generous with each other. So instead of going to your default of, oh my God, her pitch was terrible, look at that, and being all judgy about it, we're like, okay, that's where she is right now. How do we lift her up? How do we support her? How do we get her to the next level? It's a different shift that you take in your mind. And that's required to be in this network. Like if you're coming in thinking you know it all and you're going to teach somebody, that's not the spirit we're looking for.
No, well, it's beautiful. And this is what changes the world.
I hope so.
Now, can you give us a couple more examples of businesses that are in this?
Yeah, I mean, we have such a wide range. And, again, it's the intuition of 500 women that's selecting these businesses. So it's always really different. We have a woman, Barbara Alink, who founded a company called The Alinker, Alinker. And she was walking through the park with her mother, and her mother pointed at someone in a wheelchair and said, over my dead body, am I ever going to use one of those? Like when she starts to lose mobility, and she was 80. And so Barb started thinking about like, how do we solve this problem? And she did some research and she found out that 50% of people who are in wheelchairs can still move. They're still mobile, but there's no way for them to continue to move when they've, either had a stroke or they have MS or Parkinson's. Except to be pushed and like lose their even more mobility. Mm-hmm. So she designed what looks like a giant adult tricycle that you move with your feet. And so it stabilizes your body. You stay at eye height, and you can move with it. And it's just a game-changing, super cool, iconic idea, which I would encourage everybody to look up. And that was voted on by the network. We have someone, Alana Ben-Ari, who created a company called 21 Toys. And it teaches empathy. So there are these little wood blocks that that have 100 different designs. You are both blindfolded and you have to describe to the other person how to actually design the block in a pattern that's given. And it's a really, really hard thing to do. And you quickly realize, the challenges of somebody who doesn't have all of their faculties. Like you get quickly into this empathetic state and figure out like, how do you actually help somebody along who may not see the same thing that you do? It's a really interesting thing that's in 1,000 schools now around the world, and they're starting to use it in companies to train people to understand different points of view.
Oh boy, do we need
so
that.
The empathy toy, empathy toy is super cool. And then there's a woman, Nadia Hamilton, who created Magnus Mode. And it's an app for people who have cognitive disabilities to live more independently. Her brother is on the autism spectrum. And it's literally like how to order a coffee at a coffee shop, how to use the facilities in an airport, how to use an ATM. And it's a step-by-step guide for them to go out on their own and navigate through the world, which they can't do right now because, things that are easy for us to do, like even just brushing your teeth, what are the steps to do that? This app walks them through it. And each of those modules are supported by a corporation who really wants to increase accessibility. So again, really cool ideas, broad spectrum. We have AI companies, we have wellness companies, we have a fishery, we have food companies, just a really big mix.
Now, what's the timing cycle? Because I know you're coming up on a deadline right now.
Yeah, so on November 1st, 2017, we will finish applications. So if you're an entrepreneur out there with at least $50K in revenue, majority woman-owned and woman-led, you can apply through our website. Very simple, only 12 questions at SheEO, SheEO.world. And if you would like to be an activator in this network and be part of this connection and this community of radically generous women, you can also just sign up with your credit card on our website. It's $1,100. You get a tax receipt in the United States as part of this. And we're in Canada, the US, and New Zealand right now, and just about to launch Mexico, Netherlands, and Australia. And we have 150 regions around the world that have applied to replicate this. So here we go. It's happening. If you want to be one of the first million women in this amazing network, please join us at SheEO.world.
Incredible. I'm going to put a link to that on my website as well so everybody can find you.
Great.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about this?
I think given what's going on in the world, this challenge that we have is I feel like every single day we're being pulled back into the vortex of what's broken. And it really takes a lot of our energy away. And the challenge and the practice I work on every day is to look towards the future. Instead of fixing the broken model, we need to create a new one. And so where do you want to put your energy? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a room and a space surrounded by radically generous women who are lifting each other up, or fighting the existing model, which is absolutely not designed by us? So there's this Buckminster Fuller quote that I think about all the time. And it's really this whole issue of like, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you need to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that's what we're doing with SheEO. If you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you.
Oh, I love it so much. This is the best. All right, I'm in. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to share this everywhere, and hopefully we can get some more activators out of our listeners.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, a Herstory of Hollywood or a Herstory of Tech. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Vicki Saunders for sharing her story and telling us all about SheEO. I'm going to link to SheEO on my website. You should go there now. And I want you to become an activator, and I know you are going to want to become an activator. Or if you have a business that you're getting off the ground, you may want to become a venture. So you're going to need to go to SheEO.world to apply for either one. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Brosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podbay, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features, bios of our guests, merch, pictures, links. And now we're on YouTube, where you'll start to see some of my interviews on video. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Other50% and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out the Other 50%, a Herstory of Tech or a Herstory of Hollywood. Listen to them all. Thanks for listening. See you next time.